everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Performance Cafe. And today we're going to carry on talking about the topic we started last week, which was called entitlement, and how do we deal with it. I think firstly for me, the thing about entitlement is I have baby boomer parents, or I had baby boomer parents. I'm Gen X. Then we are in business with millennials, and now we are starting with, I believe they are now called the zillennials, but anyway. And so one of the problems I think with entitlement, before I even start, one thing about entitlement I do just want to highlight is, as I said last week, not everyone who stands their ground is being entitled. If there is merit to what they're saying, if they are bringing the goods, if they're producing results, then it's not about entitlement. It's about real value. I think the tough thing is if someone who's a baby boomer speaks to someone who's a millennial, all they see is maybe entitlement. And that's because they know what the millennial does not yet know. But unfortunately, the millennial knows so much more because they've grown up in this world. They've grown up in this digital age. They grow up with cell phones and computers. So I think it's important that we understand that everyone has value to add. So let's not just jump onto entitlement as, oh, that person is entitled. As I said last time, let's look at context, let's look at frequency, and let's look at consistency. But let's get cracking with today's topic. How do we go about eradicating entitlement? Now, last week, for those of you that didn't watch the previous movie, I spoke about outcomes-based management as a way to do this. And for those of you who don't know, outcomes-based management is where I worry less about tasks and I really dig deep on what the results were. And what we get from this is if we work on the outcomes, if we work on the results, we can actually use a system of meritocracy. Now, I'm going to read you a lovely definition of that, because meritocracy is a system, organization, or society in which people are chosen and moved into positions of success, power, influence, and on the basis of their demonstrated abilities and merit. So it's not because I said so. It's because I showed you that I am participating, I am contributing, and this is what I need or believe. So the way that we want to address entitlement is we want to start with a couple of, I'm going to talk about two very generic things, and we're going to get more granular. The first thing that we want to do is we're going to talk about promoting a culture of accountability and meritocracy. So individuals are recognized and rewarded based on their contributions and achievements rather than entitled privileges. So the reason why I love looking at accountability in this perspective is because with accountability, of course, we've got a whole range of videos, and this is just one of many of them that talks about how do we hold people accountable. It seems to be such a difficult thing to do. And here the thing is that without with entitlement, there can be no accountability. And I think an important place to start, and it's really going to seem really back to front because I'm normally quite pro positive solutions and not using, strict measures and policies and procedures to deal with issues, interpersonal issues in the office. But one of the things I'd like you to do is to seek support from leadership if you think there's someone in your team who is acting incredibly entitled. And I'll tell you why. I almost want you to preempt this and go and see in your business's policies and procedures. Go and speak to your HR manager or your HR admin, and find out what does your human resources system provide around guidance, mediation, disciplinary actions. And that'll help you understand how the business frames the problem. And I want you to do that even if you don't have someone who is giving you hassles with entitlement right now. Just because very often what we do, and I think I spoke about this about 2 videos back, we want to be kind. So we don't speak up when we see something going wrong, when we see entitlement happening. The first couple of times we try and be nice and try and explain to the individual why it wouldn't work that way, but we don't really take tangible tangible steps to dealing with a process on how we deal with this. The problem that this causes is by the time this person is entitled for the 5 millionth time about absolutely everything, we've sort of been having kind of conversations, but not really. So there's not really anything to fall back on. And I think that's the important thing, is that first off, just armor yourself with what you can and what you can't do, and what is available to you with regards to this from your in your area. The other sort of very generic thing we want to do is we want to say foster a culture of collaboration. So my father used to be crazy about South African sport. And I remember one day he was sitting in front of the TV and he said, that's what happens when you pay players each a different salary. They only pay for themselves. And I just thought, but he had worked so hard and he had scored the tries, so why not? But what my father understood is that if we don't foster that collaboration, that teamwork, that cooperation, that mutual support of each other and the mutual effort, then what's happening is we're allowing some people to pull ahead, some people to fall behind. And because they don't collaborate, they cannot come together, and there's no standard for what the team is. So encourage things like communication, active listening, and respect for different perspectives is so important with collaboration. I've spoken a lot about diversity of thought, and that's really great. So when we see that, when we are seeing that this entire team environment is important to us, that the team goals are important to us, then we mitigate entitlement by making sure that the value of the collective is highlighted and not just one individual person. I'd like to apologize to my dad posthumously for judging him in that case. The next general thing I think we can take a look at is leading by example. So this is really a difficult one for us, because as we rise in the rank and file, and especially if we're a particular age and we live through particular times in society, the higher up you are in an organization, the more important we are. Therefore, we are allowed things just because of our title. Well, that's your title is leading to entitlement, right? So watch out how you demonstrate your professionalism, your accountability, so that the team that works for you understands that you expect them to be accountable as you expect yourself to be, that you treat everyone with respect as you expect to be treated with respect, and that you are recognizing and rewarding on merit, and you are being recognized and rewarded on merit rather than entitlement. You know, there's a fabulous movie that I absolutely love, and it's called Because I Said So. And because I said so is also entitlement. So we think that as managers, we don't always have to explain ourselves. Trust me, we do. And it is not because we are less important, but because we want to create buy-in and clarity. And this leads me to the next thing that gets a bit more specific, and that's about setting clear expectations. There can be no accountability without clear expectations. I love the quote from Alice in Wonderland, where she is walking through the forest and the path splits and the Cheshire Cat is in the tree above her, and she says, excuse me, but could you please tell me which path to take? And he said, well, where do you want to go? And she said, well, I don't know. He said, well, then it doesn't really matter, does it? So it's important to clearly define and communicate expectations and responsibilities, and then make sure that everyone understands what is required of them. You see, what happens here is, again, because I said so, what I say comes from my frame of reference, the way I would do things, the way I understand the world. But when I'm explaining it to someone else, I've got to ask them, so what do you think I've just asked you? What would you take as next steps? Don't ask them if there's something they don't understand, especially if you're working with someone who likes to think a little bit and process things before they get to an answer. Because they are sure to tell you they don't have questions, but they may process and may not know that they have a question, because by the time they finish processing, you've left and they don't know, that they might be missing an objective. So make sure to also personalize this approach a little bit by checking in, who's the person I'm speaking to? Are they good with a half-phrased expectation, which technically they shouldn't be, but some people we do resonate with. So just watch out with that. And otherwise, make sure that you're putting it in a way that at the level of work that they're at with their experience, it makes sense. Next up, and this is the video I think was called, what is the video called? It's something about kindness and accountability. We'll put the link into the notes at the bottom for you. Provide constructive feedback. You see, what happens is we are too scared to give people feedback, especially if we think they're going to react badly. But I think it's important to offer specific feedback, and specifically when entitlement-related issues are coming up again and again. So address the behavior directly and focus on the impact that it has not only on the team and organization, but maybe speak to the individual about how this comes across to other team members and to clients, any stakeholders, so they can be clear about what they're communicating, what it looks like, and the environment that it creates around them. And then encourage self-reflection. And I think this is the difficult one, another difficult one actually, because not only is it tough to give feedback, but to go back later and say, hey, I'd like to just chat with you. Did you think about what we spoke about? What were your thoughts? But actually, we need to encourage self-reflection. We shouldn't be okay that when we give feedback, it stops there. That person is in a relationship with us. And so they need to go and take a look at their entitlement and say, right, this is what the person has said. This is the feedback I understood. And let them come back and let's see whether they've developed self-awareness and whether they've noticed the impact this has on other people. And don't judge them when they come back to you with this. Don't go, you see, I told you so. Go, I'm glad that you've been able to shift this perspective and see it from here. This is how else you can improve it. So provide support. Be generous in your support for such people. Right, provide development opportunities. Constructive criticism is nothing if we're not providing opportunity to learn from, and then maybe add extra layers to that learning. You wouldn't, for example, say to someone, I want you to drill a hole if they've never learned how to work with a drill and if they've never worked on masonry. However, if someone is coming across as entitled, offer them things like emotional intelligence training, communication skills, empathy. Send them to a coach like me so that we can work with them in a field outside of the office. We can create a safe space away from the office where they can give air to these thoughts that they're coming across and where they can process. Some people just process better when they're actually speaking out loud. Right, next up, implement consequences and boundaries, right? We've established the expectations. We've given the feedback. We've provided support. We've provided development. At a point, we have to implement consequences and boundaries. Otherwise, people think you don't think it's important. That's the irony. Again, we try and be kind, but actually what we're seeing is that by not implementing the consequences and the boundaries that we have spoken about, we disrespect our own imperatives. Just think about it. You're standing in a lane in a shopping mall, and you hear, Johnny, don't do that. Johnny, don't do that. Johnny, don't do that. I'm going to smack you. We all, by the second time that Johnny has done it, knows it's going to go nowhere. When we don't implement consequences and boundaries, we do exactly the same. We also teach that person that it's possible to go against the values and the policies of the organization, and that it's all right. Remember, consequences and boundaries can also be graded. They don't all have to be, if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you. It can be, if you don't do this, then there will be natural consequences, because there will be natural consequences. You could drop the team in an initiative. You could be left out of the next phase of the project, which will impact the way that your career develops. So it's not all about rushing off to HR, but you know how to start implementing the little consequences before you move to the big consequences that you understand, because you already have had that discussion with HR. So in closing, remember, each situation is unique, and sometimes empathy does need, sometimes entitlement does need empathy. It needs understanding and a willingness to find the resolution. But if we get proactive and we consistently help people deal with their own entitlement, we are creating a more harmonious environment for everyone involved, and better productivity and better collaboration that's also good for the company. As always, if you've enjoyed the stream, you're looking for more, we record these and upload them after the fact as videos to YouTube and Facebook. Related articles can be found on our website, performforward.com, and the live streams themselves are held on LinkedIn every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. South Africa time. That's SAST or GMT -2. And if you have any questions or suggestions for topics, please do leave a comment on your platform of choice, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, if you've got nothing more, then we'll see you next Wednesday at the Performance Cafe.